Hello, hello. Okay, friends. So in the last video, we transformed the sign-in with Google Screenshot into native Figma frames and layers. And it was a quick one, mostly because our friend Gonzalo had already gone through the trouble of recreating the sign-in with Google UI screen, and we simply just leveraged Gonzalo's work here from the Figma community because of the template that Gonzalo had already made. So in this video, we're going to tackle the last screen, which is the ChatGPT landing page, right? And if I scroll down here, actually, I have all these annotations. So you'll see here that I have done some work up front using Chrome's inspect tools to both get all the spacing and a lot of the border radiuses and font sizes and things like that. I also went ahead and sort of finished extracting all the color styles and creating defined color styles here in Figma, which you can see if I click in an empty area in the canvas. I have all these green, yellow, blacks, grays, and whites predefined. I also went ahead and extracted all the SVG icons. And again, as a reminder, in Chrome, if you download this plugin called SVG Grabber, you simply click it and it sort of detects all the SVG scalable vector graphics and makes them available to you to download. All you have to do is click this button and then it will simply export all these icons into a file, a folder that you unzip, and then you drag the files literally into your Figma canvas, and then you'll have those icons. I also went through the trouble of turning each of those icons here into a icon variant. A variant is, again, sort of like a specific instant or specific type of component. It's part of this component family specifically. So this particular component I called ChatGPT icons, and then the particular icon types, I gave them all names so that I can easily swap them in and out. And you'll see that in action in just a second. So yeah, I basically did a lot of that upfront work. And the last thing I also did was I extracted all the copy here, so you don't have to watch me grabbing the copy from the website here because I went ahead and did some of that work. Okay, so if we look at the screen here, there's really two parts to the landing page. The left side here that has like a blacker background, and the main section here which has more of like a purple, dark purple-ish background. So in this video, I'm going to tackle the right side first, this main section here. There's a header here. There are these little icon header sections that create 3 columns, and then there's these little cards here in the middle. It's a 3x3 grid. There's also our send message input here, a bit of a disclaimer here at the bottom. This footer section is what I'm probably going to make first. So let's get started. So let's see here. We have a dark gray background, and I know that, let's see, this side panel here is 260 pixels. So I'm actually going to create that right out the gate. This is the side panel, and this is 260 pixels. And I'm going to push that to the top leftmost corner using holding down Option, and then if you hold down Option and then press A and W, it'll push it all the way to the top left. And then I'm going to fill that with off black, I believe is the color, and then change this to get to the bottom here, and then I'm going to anchor it to the top and the bottom using these constraints here. So what that's going to do is, even if I resize the parent level frame, this side panel frame will also resize along with it. Okay, so let's make sure that this is the right color here. 20, 21, 23, and yep, it's about the same. So I'll keep it as that off black. Okay, and let's see, actually what's pretty easy is the title here, so let me just grab that, ChatGPT, and throw that in here. And then I know that this is pretty big, 36, and let's make that bold. And then there's going to be some space later, so I'm going to just center this inside, make sure it's inside this frame, center it for now, and I'll move that later. Okay, let's make this send a message input. So I already have the word send a message, so I'm going to cut that, and then I'm going to paste it here. And then there's all around padding of 16 pixels, so let's change that. 16 pixels. The fill, I know it's like a gray, I think. Nope, too light. Yeah, probably like this medium purple gray. There's a border radius of 12 pixels, and it's a width of 768. And the text color, let's see, what did I document in my color tokens here? It should be gray. So we can change this to gray. I think we're getting closer. It's going to be send a message input. Okay, and I need this icon as well. So I'm going to grab my icon here, this little message icon, and then paste that inside this frame. And the bonus thing is it's all aligned in the middle, but I need it to be split out. And so the way I did that, you can click X to split out the auto layout, or if you double click, it'll also do the same thing. And this is the same color. It's a medium gray, or excuse me, no, this is a gray. This is a lighter gray. So it looks like that. And let's see, what is the font size? So if I go back to the website here, what is the size of this text box? The font size is 16, and I was close. This is 17. Okay, so this is starting to look good. So I'm also going to throw this, cut this, and paste it here at the bottom. Right? And then the next thing I know, this is pretty easy. This little disclaimer section, it's a big sentence. There's a link style here. It's a bit brighter. So let's go find that. And then I'm going to throw these two in an auto layout with 12 pixels of space between the two. And I'm going to call this footer. And this disclaimer should be at the bottom, so I pushed it into the bottom. Because these two layers here are inside an auto layout, if I just simply click and select one layer, I can use arrow keys to switch the position. So this is looking good. Now I'm going to center align this and check to see how big this font is. Looks pretty small to me. It's 12 pixels. So because this is 12 pixels, I'm gonna adjust the size there. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. Okay, so I push this into the bottom right corner, but I know this needs to be about yay wide, 1532 pixels. And I also know there's 24 pixels of spacing beneath, because it's pushed up off the ground like that. All right, and then I know this is not a pure white, it's more of a gray or a light gray. Let's try it, that light gray. Yeah, I think it is that light gray. The light gray is the disclaimer, yep. Okay, And now we're getting somewhere. Now I'm gonna make the cards here in the middle. So first what I'm gonna do is grab one of the pieces of text for inside that card. So let's do that here. Explain quantum computing. And it looks like the font is supposed to be 14 pixels. So I used a style that I had stored where the font was 12 pixels, but then updated it to 14 by detaching the text style. And let's see, how wide are these? So each one is about 230 pixels wide. So okay, let's add auto layout, and we know there's 12 pixels of space all around. And what did I just inspect? 230. So there's a fixed width, 230. And then now you're seeing the text jut out of the frame. So what I'm going to do is change the text to fill the container instead of hug. And then also change the text alignment to center like that. Okay, let's add a fill here. That looks right, medium gray. There's a border radius of 6 pixels. I'm going to rename this to card using Command R. Card, explain quantum computing in simple terms. And let's see. It looks like the text spacing here should be a little bit more than 17. So I'm going to boost that to 3. Yeah, more like 20 maybe. And then the fill here is a little bit off white. It's not completely white. But that's starting to look good. And now I have a card here. I'm going to make this into a component. And then I'm going to make an instance of this guy. And then move this to the selected masters page. So what I just did was, if I jump to components, you'll notice that the card moved here because I used this plugin called component page. So if you start typing component, move selected master to page, it'll move a master component or the parent component to a dedicated page in your Figma file called components. So let's jump back to 3.3. Okay, so now I have 2 instances. I got rid of one. And remember I said earlier this is a grid? Well, guess what? There's a plugin called AutoGrid. I encourage you to go download that and test it out. So here I'm creating a grid of these instances. I have the instance selected. I know that the gap between all these columns and rows is going to be 14 pixels. If I hit create grid, boom, it created the grid for me, and that saved me a lot of time. The last thing I'm going to do is pull this guy down, paste it into this page, and I'm starting to get there now. So I'm gonna start cutting this text using Command X and pasting into these cards. So if you don't hold down Shift Option V, so Command X and then Shift Option V to paste, it'll maintain the styles of the destination component. How do I make it HTTP? Remembers what user said. So these are capabilities in the middle. It remembers what user said. It allows the user to provide follow-up corrections, and it is trained to decline inappropriate requests. To be honest, I never read any of these. May occasionally generate incorrect information, harmful instructions, biased content, that is definitely not good, and limited knowledge of the world after 2021. Okay, so I'm pretty sure it's not 100% exact, but it is definitely good enough, this grid. And so I'm going to start putting this grid and this ChatGPT header in the same frame. All right. Okay, so we're basically almost there. The last thing to do is to create these little icon headers. So let's have a look at how big these icons are. They're 24 by 24, all of them, and there's a, how much of a gap is this? It's an 8 pixel gap. So I'm going to grab my first icon, which I believe was the sun. Yep, sun, and then examples. So the perfect thing with the sun is it's already 24 by 24. I want to change all the colors to be the off-white, and then I want the examples text to be here, and then I'm going to throw these two layers into an auto layout centered, yep, with 8 pixels of space in between. Let's see, how big is this font size? 18. So if I come back down here, I'm going to nudge this up to 18. Now we're looking good. There's also, if you notice, a fixed width for this icon header thingy. So I'm going to change that to 230 as well. And this is going to be called icon header. Okay, and then turn this into a component. Do the same thing, move the master to the page, and then I'm going to use auto grid again to make 1 row, 3 columns, and 0 space between, actually 14 pixels. Okay, and now all I have to do is relabel the other 2 icon headers, limitations, and then because this icon is technically a component and I already defined all the variables, I believe the capabilities was a bolt. Let's have a look. Bolt, and then alert is the limitations. So alert, okay, perfect. So I have my headers, icon headers, and now I'm going to paste that into this frame, like this, and then reduce the spacing here, like that. Awesome. So we're starting to really get somewhere with this main body. There are definitely a few spacing things I need to fix. So there's about 14, I believe, at least 14, the gap here, yep, 14. But then ChatGPT itself has 64 pixels of space at the bottom. So 64 minus 14 is 50. So I'm going to give ChatGPT an additional, rename this to header, 50 additional pixels of space. Okay, so we are definitely starting to get somewhere. Let's see, I'm going to resize this top section, and I renamed this to top. So this is top and footer. The top section I'm going to change to a fixed width to be the same width as what we got going on in the footer here. So there we go. And now this is sort of really centered in this middle area here. And am I happy with that alignment? No, I am not happy. So what I want to do is, let's see, the header here has 50 pixels on the top, but we don't need the top. So let's change that. Okay, so that did bring it up a little bit, but I think what's happening is I need to actually extend the height and the height of this section, or this top layer. and then center the component, or center all the child layers within this top layer. So inside we have header, we have icon headers, we have a grid of cards, and then we have our footer. Footer has our send message and our free research preview disclaimer little there. This is going to be a link. So let's highlight this text and Command U to underline it. Details matter. Okay, so that was about 20 minutes. I'm going to pause the video there and see you in the next one, but we just wrapped up the main section, the right section, and then I'll see you in the next video where we're going to tackle the side panel. Thanks.